With so much being uncovered in the world today, like the latest drop of the you-know-who files that everyone's talking about, the Epstein files, how do we navigate what arises in us as we witness the great reveal and disclosure? We are in the age of disclosure, and how we navigate that is what we're going to talk about today on Elevate, the Awareness Shift, Waking the Quantum Self. Stay tuned. Welcome to Elevate, the Awareness Shift, Waking the Quantum Self. I'm Karen Swain, your host, and you're listening on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio all over the world. Hello, and welcome to another show, Elevating Consciousness, the Awareness Shift, Waking the Quantum Self, with Karen Swain and Kristen Miss Mash. Hey, Kristen, nice to see you again.
Hello, it's so fun to be here again. I enjoy it.
So she pops online and she's like, where are you going to go with this? And I tell her where I'm going. She goes, oh, cool. But I wanted to, hey, who's online? Vladdy. Hey, Vladdy. Mish. G'day. I wanted to talk about the cover because I was doing the cover. I was talking to Kristen last week about all the shows online using covers as clickbait, right? And all the big shows that I've quite admired for a while, like Wisdom from North and Emilio, what's Emilio's last name? And quite a few of them are all starting to use clickbait more and more with their AI, with their covers, and making people look really shocked, really like, oh, like I've got to tune into like, what are they shocked at? So I was talking about that with Kristen, and when I made this cover, I put a whole group of people looking shocked as a bit of a joke, just because of that conversation we had.
Yeah,
because when Kristen first found me on the show, probably over a decade ago, I had Garnet Schulhauser, who we talk about often, on the show for the first time. And Garnet blew my mind. Like what he was saying about things, I just had this realization that all this stuff that we think is myth and we think is fairy tales, he'd actually experienced in his astral body with his spirit guide. He'd gone to meet people like Sasquatch and fairies and gnomes and all sorts of mythical creatures. And it kind of blew my mind. And so I was clearly like, oh, gaping. And so I put a photograph of me with a gaping open mouth going, oh, on the cover.
The original clickbaiter, Karen Swain.
The original clickbaiter. Not the clickbait, but because it actually made me feel like that. Like I was really shocked at what he revealed. And, I've had Garnet on the show about 8 times, and he continues to reveal and reveal and reveal and reveal more and more stuff that with our very limited perspective on life of what we think is who we are and what's possible, you speak to people like Garnet or Kevin Briggs or, people that have these unbelievable access, Preston Dennett, Dolly Saffron, unbelievable access to the multi-dimensional reality of who we are. And it just reveals more and more of what's possible and who we are as divine genius creators,
Yeah.
Connected. Yeah. Connected to the cosmos and connected to different forms of life. At the store, checking them out at home. Heidi, hey Heidi, how are you? Connected, but why I wanted to talk about the Great Reveal, navigating the Great Reveal, is because, 3 million pages of the Epstein files dropped. And everyone's online talking about it. Like I can't get on a social media platform without seeing somebody talking about it. It's like you just can't get away from it.
It's so true.
Yeah. And people that I have greatly admired within the conscious community or the New Age community, I guess you could call it, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter what you call it, are just like tearing people down. And it's a little disappointing because I thought these people had a bit more elevated consciousness than to get out there with big followings and start judging others for being this or that or the other. I just come back to, Jesus, Yeshua, Sananda, who said the person they wanted to stone a woman for, I don't know, I can't remember what you come from the religious background. There was a story in the Bible of some woman who people were going to
wait. Let's see if I get it. He who is without sin cast the first stone. Right. Okay, you guys tell me in the comments if I did that right.
Exactly.
But if you're so perfect, you get up here and do it,
Yeah,
you get up here and be the one to judge. Yeah.
There's Chris. Hey, Chris. Good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. Chris in Canada. And what's Mish saying here? You usually point towards others so they don't look back at you. Well, okay, Mish, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still in Canada. Great. Good on you, Doug. This is what the great reveal is revealing. So as stuff is being disclosed, uncovered, revealed, like Kevin Briggs talks about the reveal from his galactic guides, his Council of Eight, all different flavors from all different parts of the cosmos. They call this time on Earth the Great Reveal, but they're talking about the revealing of the truth that there is life in the cosmos interacting with Earth, and he calls it the reveal, and most people call it disclosure. With everything that's being revealed, whether it's criminal action from people that are being uncovered in, files, or whether it's government criminal stuff that's happening, how they've not disclosed the truth about UAPs and UFOs for 70, 80, 100 years. The government's kept it under wraps and killed people that want to talk about it. Like, there's so much being uncovered, including things like the reality of Sasquatch and the reality of who we are as infinite beings connected to our multidimensional universe, and our abilities to communicate telepathically and get our psychic abilities online. And all this is a part of the great reveal. There are people out there, like when the telepathy tapes, I was saying to Kristen before, when the telepathy tapes first hit and it became a viral podcast, the biggest podcast in the world, I was so excited that there were enough people in the world, that millions of people wanted to talk about telepathy, because that's uncovering our own human potential, even though it was about a select group of children on the spectrum that were nonverbal, and had that apraxia. I always get that wrong. They couldn't really control their physical body very well. They relied on their telepathic abilities to communicate with each other. That was being revealed. So how were people bumping up against that? A lot of people like me were excited. And then there were people, I saw a couple of guys online doing a podcast talking about how it's all BS and they're making it all up, and here's the reason why. It's like, how do you hit something? What is it revealing in you?
Right.
Like, what is it revealing in you when you hear about corruption or pedophilia or corruption or anything, when you hear about mysterious things being uncovered or our abilities being uncovered? Like, whatever bump up, do you go into your skeptical, limiting mind? Do you feel like it's BS? Do you go into your judgment mind? So this is what I wanted to talk about today. Like, somebody I so admired has gone into judgment. He has a huge following and people hang on to his every word. And he's in huge judgment about one person or another that's been revealed in the Epstein files. And I thought it was so, when you have such a huge following like that, just to pump out judgment, it's not helping the world. For somebody who started a movement many years ago called Elevate, it's where I got the name of the show from him, elevate consciousness, judging another for perceived crimes is not very elevated. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And one of the things that I'm noticing with some of these people that I admire, or like you, that I followed for some time, and I'm seeing, what I'm noticing is that they're working to protect their following, or keep their following by choosing a side. So they feel like And so to me, they're just coming from fear.
Right.
They're coming from a fear side of, oh, I'm going to lose my followers. Or I'm going to get canceled because the cancel culture is so huge, or, nobody will listen to me if I say the wrong thing. And so I'm noticing that as well.
Yeah.
And then also too, it's just kind of revealing like, oh, I didn't know they were so negative about people.
That's exactly where I went, because
Yeah, yeah.
this person was at the forefront of the reveal about what happened during 2020 and 2021 and the corruption that was being rolled out. He was at the forefront of that, making documentaries about it. But
Mm,
his father, his elderly father, believed in the mainstream narrative and he wanted to go and be jabbed. And so this person, who I thought was a very elevated person, took his father to to get jabbed. And I thought, oh my God, that's walking in your love when you
right.
completely disagree with this and yet you're going to help your father because your father wants it. Like, I thought that this person was that sort of person.
Yeah.
He kind of lived outside of that harsh judgment. And but then this latest drop of the extra is actually revealing how, because not only is he tearing down one person, he's tearing down what he calls the whole new age community, saying that it's full of charlatans and everybody's fake and they're, what do
Yeah.
you call it, spiritual bypassing, they're all love and light but they're not being true. Like, he's just tearing down the whole movement, the new age movement. And I'm like, what? He's like, I used to be in the new age movement and it's all terrible. But it's like tearing down religion. Gee, is there, like, you've been inside it, is there a lot of corruption in religion? Yes. Do millions of people get a lot out of religion? Yes. So is it good and bad? Yes. Like, how can you judge a movement for being completely terrible
Yeah.
because of the terrible actions of a few?
Right.
It's just, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm not a big fan of religion, but it doesn't mean that, like, my sister-in-law's mother was strong Catholic before she died and she loved her church, and I used to talk to her about it, and I used to ask her what did she love so much about it, and I used to have these beautiful conversations with her about her religion, because to her it was her world and she loved it.
Hmm.
So I had to appreciate that that's where she was, not try and convert her and tell her how
Right.
corrupt religion can
Yeah.
be. Like, she doesn't want to hear that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So
and it's like for myself, I come from a huge family. I have 10 siblings and two parents that are still alive. One is in their 80s and one's in their 90s, and the majority of them all still go to church and
right.
live that, Mormon LDS lifestyle belief system. And for the most part, they're lovely people. Certain judgment comes out, but more or less, I just see it as, them living in their limiting fears, but I'm not going to judge them for it. And what's the point? And furthermore, because I don't want to be judged. I mean, I grew up Mormon,
Mm-hmm.
and believing it, not in Utah. So I rarely had Mormon friends. So I was really, the outsider all the time. And I think that helped me to not be so judgmental of a person, because I didn't want to be so heavily judged. And if I didn't, then why would I judge somebody else? I come more of like, I treat other people how I wish to be treated. So,
Mm-hmm.
that content creator, that guy that you watch, I mean, what's he's going to think about that? Somebody's going to find something about him to tear him to shreds, right?
Well, they have done that. He's had a lot of scrutiny. But then people like us who are in the new age movement, I don't even know what you call it, because people have some ideas. It's like the word Karen and the word woke we spoke about before. People attach ideas to a name or a label. It's like, what does the new age movement? I've heard a lot of people tear down the new age movement.
Yeah.
But to me, what the new age movement is, it's like, hello, we're in a new age.
Yeah.
It's like, we're in a new, I mean, every age is a new age, right?
Yeah.
So we're always in a new age. So a new age means let's evolve, let's think differently, let's be more unified, let's expand our consciousness. Like, that's the new age movement to me. Let's understand who we are as spiritual beings having a physical life experience. And what does that mean while we have this physical life experience? What does it mean to be more connected to our source, to our soul, to our infinite intelligence, to be more deliberate in our thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that create our world? How does it create our physical world and beyond this world? I mean, there's so many questions that we can explore. what do you call that? I mean, what movement do you call that? What do you call that? New
Well,
age.
we did a show. Was it when we did that show together with Sean Leather? You said the word extraordinary, and
Extraordinary.
I'm like, I kind of like that. So I've dropped it in conversations with people. Trying not to use the word woo woo because that word doesn't even make sense. Like, how would you even define? That's a sound, not a word.
It's a sound of woo woo. I mean, Jamie Butler says it's not woo woo, it's true. I love that about Jamie. But it was Nadi Hanna that said, "Don't call yourself crazy or woo woo. Call yourself extraordinary." Like, I really want to honor that.
But true. Okay, so what's the truth? Like, my truth is maybe different than yours.
Exactly. But so you're saying maybe he's going to be judged. He has been ripped to shreds, but because he lives outside the box. And he navigated that really well. That's why I had such I revered him. And now he's like posting all over his social media, tearing people down. And I'm like, really? Is this where you're going with this? That sort of, I'm scratching my head. That's not the sort of person I knew you were. But I mean, even when people tear you down, as I'm sure, Kristen, leaving the Mormon church and leaving your friends and family behind and becoming more extraordinary, becoming more extraordinary. You've had a lot of people tearing you down. I know I have. But does that mean we have to tear them down because they're tearing us down? Again, judgment doesn't reveal anything about the other person. When you're judging another, when you're hating on another, when you're calling another out, it only reveals what's in your own heart, what's in your own mind, what's in your own subconscious programming. It's revealing. So as we navigate this world of disclosure, this world of uncovering beauty, uncovering corruption, it's also uncovering what's deep within us. Like you were telling me about a post of a young guy who read the files. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, it's just a young man. I don't know how he came in my feed, but he did, and it was him, and you could tell that he was laying on his bed, and his bed was kind of all disheveled. It wasn't like the beautiful background or something like you and I have, and he was just in the moment, and you could tell he'd been crying, and he said, I want to apologize to all my followers. I haven't posted for 3 or 4 days. I sat down with the Epstein files or the latest drop or whatever people are using, because I'm not paying attention to it. But he said I watched it, and it brought up so much of the abuse that I went through as a child. It brought back. So I've just been sitting here working through, sitting in my, he didn't say PTSD, but that's what he had done all weekend long, and just, experiencing all of it, because that's what it brought up for him. And he didn't point the finger and say, all these baddies in this department and all these baddies over there. And he just said what was happening to him.
Right. It was revealing. It was revealing his unconscious fears and
it was bringing up the memories.
Well, memories only devastate you if you haven't dealt with them. Right. I mean, I have memories of lots of people dying that I loved, as you do, that I can talk about and think about, and I don't burst into tears because I'm not holding the trauma of it anymore. I can talk about being beaten up as a kid by my father and put in hospital, and I can talk about all that stuff. They're memories, but I don't cry when I talk about it because I don't hold the trauma of them anymore. So there are memories, and then there is the trauma that you're still holding. So the reveal is about, what still lives inside you, what's still active in your vibration as trauma, because when it is active in your vibration, even though it can be hidden, it can be running like a program in the background. It's how you see life and how you create your life based on what you believe to be true. Like the world is corrupt. People are out to get me. I never get what I want. People use me. People abuse me. People don't listen to me. Life's unfair. It's, it's a corrupt world we live in. You can't trust anybody. Like all this stuff lives inside us as programmed beliefs. And when it's active in your vibration, then that's how you create your world, through your beliefs. So it's really what's happening right now. The great reveal navigating is, as we judge another, or as it hits something that brings up memories, like we have the opportunity to look at it and to really let go of it, like what's really going on.
Mhm. Let's put up what Chris is saying here. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to
Doesn't
read
ju-
it up?
yeah, doesn't judgment bring the negative side of oneself? Highest form of human intelligence is to observe yourself without judging yourself. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
That makes perfect sense, Chris.
Well, and when
Perfect
I
sense.
when I do that, because I've done that in some situations, that's when I get the answers. I step away. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very, very upset one time. I had to leave a family function to go to um, a therapy session for one of my kids. And this kid had asked that I go. And I was mad. And I don't get mad very often, but I could feel it like boiling under my skin. And I was just pissed off. Sorry, that's an American term, but I was just
No, it's an
mad.
Australian turn as well. Pissed off
Okay.
is an Australian.
I was just
But
totally
but
just mad as hell.
when you guys say pissed, as in pissed off, but you leave off the off.
Yeah.
In
That's
Australia,
drunk.
when we say pissed, it's drunk. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
yeah,
was
go
like, I
on.
was so irritated and so mad. And I love this kid and I love that they're in therapy. And I knew that this was something that was necessary. So I remember like driving there in this fume going, okay, you're mad. And I like will let myself go through the process of being mad. I was like kind of slamming my hand on the steering wheel and da da da. But
Mhm,
I stepped aside, just like what Chris said here. I stepped aside and said, okay, Kristen, why are you so mad? I mean,
mhm,
be mad, go ahead, but why are you so mad? Why am I mad? And I kept asking myself, is that it? That it? Till I got to the answer, and it took about 3 or 4 tries.
mhm.
And I don't know if I'm just asking my brain or if it's my higher self. It kind of felt a little bit spiritual. It feels a little spiritual when I do this practice. Um, but the answer was that I was just irritated that, why is it always me that has to leave? Like, why can't I, and I was mad that I was missing out on the family function and I was putting it all on my kid. But it was really like something about me just being in like,
Absolutely.
I'm totally gonna miss out.
Absolutely. It's always about us. Whenever
Yeah,
we judge the world outside ourselves, it's always
yeah,
what we're thinking about ourselves.
yeah,
And most of us are unconscious of that. And so as we navigate this shift in human consciousness, all that's happening in the world is revealing what's happening in the world, but it's also an opportunity to reveal what lives inside us, and be conscious of it. And when
yeah,
you're conscious of it, then you can do something about it. When you're unconscious of it, like when people are mad, Byron Katie says, when you believe your stressful thoughts, you're in your insanity. Like my brothers and me too, probably my father, we had this temper. But one of the last interactions I had with my brother was he was exploding like a volcano. And I was just watching his face go red and steam come out of his ears. And I was thinking about Byron Katie. When you believe your stressful thought, you're in your insanity. And when you're in your insanity, you're totally unconscious of what you're believing to be true. It's like you're making the world or the thing outside you the problem, and you're screaming at it.
yeah,
And yeah, that's what I was thinking as I was looking at my poor brother, exploding. I mean, he does it often, but that was like one of the last physical interactions. I've spoken to him many times, but we haven't had, because he lives out of city, had many physical interactions since then. Just looking at him going, he's completely in his insanity, believing his stressful thoughts. Yeah, it's amazing. And so it does give you the opportunity in that moment, like you said, of really looking at what is it that I'm believing to be true that's
mhm,
actually not the truth, but it's really pissing me off right now. Like, what is it?
mhm.
What am I believing? So it's revealing our subconscious. Everyone else is clearly the problem, he says. Yeah, everybody else is clearly the problem. Exactly. Believing the
Yeah,
stressful thoughts.
yeah,
Those triggers to learn. Yeah, Heidi says she uses those triggers to learn. Yeah, to learn and heal. Exactly. Yeah, so this time of things being revealed, like the Epstein drop, I was talking about this with a friend the other day. I was talking about John of God. So in 2002, I went with a group of girls to visit John of God in Brazil, that amazing healer who had healed, or his institution and his complex, millions of people. Oprah did a thing about it.
Yep.
And then it was revealed that he had abused girls sexually, because people, look, when you go there, he is revered as this guru. I have a problem with the whole guru complex. You put yourself on a pedestal. He was doing amazing things, and I witnessed it for sure. But I want to say that all the amazing things he did in a trance-like state. So the personality of the Joao, who was who they call John of God, was not there. Like, his ego personality was not there. He was in a trance.
Right.
And when he would come back, he'd have no memory of what went on. And so he would sit in his chair, and people would seek counsel from him. And he'd have these big meditation places where he called them the current rooms, and people healed. And there was mass healing going on. I mean, a lot of people didn't heal, but a lot of people did. There was amazing things going on. But he was so revered as this guru. And it all went to the poor old personality's head. And he thought, oh, I can take advantage of people because they'll do anything I ask. And so there's some pretty young girls who want advice, and I can have a private consultation with them and get them to do things because they revere me as this guru. Okay, so that happened. But so much good work happened. And then when he was, when it was exposed that who he was, all that good work stopped, a lot of it, 90% of it. Like, I was telling her that I had a friend who would put on John of God meditations every week underneath a big hospital here in Sydney. And those meditations were so potent. She kind of created the current room. We'd just go there and they'd play music. She had all the, the photos and pictures of him and all the ascended masters and the candles and the crystals and all that was going on. But we would just sit in silent meditation underneath a hospital, which I thought was great, creating this current of healing. And it kind of, this was inspired through that place. And then when all this disclosure came out about who he was, all that stopped. And so, like, all this good work stopped because the guru was seen as corrupt.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame.
Yeah.
Imagine the people in that hospital having spontaneous healings because groups of people got together twice a week to sit under this hospital and meditate. Incredible what was happening. But it all stopped. I mean, I think it probably ended during COVID, really, like all that sort of stuff stopped. And she continued it. She lived out of Sydney. She continued it in a small way where she lived. But, and it's the same with, I'll mention poor old Deepak's just getting crucified.
Yeah.
And will he stop teaching? Will people burn his books? Will they throw out all that amazing work that he has done because he was mentioned in the Epstein files? I mean, will all that good work stop?
Yeah. In a microcosm in my own little world, like, I am grateful to a lot of things that I brought with me from growing up in the Mormon church, like, praying every day taught me to meditate every day. And listening to promptings from the Holy Ghost really got me to listen to spirit, right? Like, so there's these beautiful things, but I know so many people who look real deep at the Mormon church and its origins, and they realize that there's, oh my gosh, huge falsities and just all kinds of lies and conspiracy, all of the same corruption. And so they leave the church and they believe that everything that they felt, all the spiritual experiences that they had, any connection, that it was all manipulation, and they leave it all behind. I've watched so many people do that. And I go, let's take with us the gold. Like, what did that actually teach you? And so, will everybody throw out all of Deepak Chopra's books and
baby bathwater?
Chris asked a really good question here too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I bring it up and read it?
Yeah, bring it up.
Okay, because I think this is really great. Would you say elevating consciousness is less about acquiring new insights and more about ending the judging, comparing movement of thought that distorts our perception? If you have fear, does it elevate consciousness? So
that's an interesting question. If you have fear, does it elevate consciousness? I guess in a way it does if you're aware that the fear you have is pointing to a belief that you hold inside yourself that you believe to be true.
Yeah.
If you believe that belief to be true and you're aware of that, and now you can deal with it, like, is it true? Can I absolutely know it's true? Who would I be without that thought?
Yeah.
Yes, fear can absolutely elevate consciousness. And fear is also a normal part of being human too. I remember Esther Hicks talking about this when her and Jerry many moons ago were at a farm and they were offered a horse riding, and Jerry met this horse and he said, no, I don't want to go on this horse. And people said, get over your fear, get over your fear, get over your fear. And he's like, no, I'm feeling like I really don't want to ride this horse. And so people were saying he was scared of the horse, right? And then somebody else mounted the horse and the horse was not in a good place and it bucked them and this person was hurt. So was Jerry's fear an indication, like an intuitive feeling the horse's distress and the horse's upset, but he was calling it fear because he was feeling the fear in the horse? You know, like what's fear telling us? So in many ways, do we ask questions about why we're scared? Or do we just react to the feeling inside us? And I think that an elevated consciousness person, where'd Chris go? Yeah, is about being aware of what it's telling us. Like, why am I feeling scared right now? What's it telling me about myself? What's it telling me about, you know, maybe you're bumping up against something and you have a fearful feeling. Maybe listen to that feeling because that's not where you're supposed to go. It could be your guidance, navigating that. Yeah, navigating that.
Yeah, and what I'm getting from their question too is, you know, all of us as we move through the big reveal, the great reveal, you know, how we move through it could be the way to end the judging and the distortion and all of that we feel for each other, and maybe bring us more together, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And
Elevating the consciousness. Yeah, go ahead.
Mish is saying, or did his fear scare the horse? Well, that's possible, Mish. His fear could have scared the horse. But when you speak to Jerry about it, and as say, Jerry's been out of his body now for, God, how many years? I don't know, 15 years, I suppose. He's been off the planet. I think that he said, when I heard the story many years ago, that he wasn't scared of the horse, but that people were saying he was scared of this, but he was just saying, no, I don't want to ride it. And people were saying, oh, you must be scared of the horse. But he wasn't scared, but he did have this intuitive hit not to get on the horse. That's his story. But yeah, absolutely. If you're fearful, I remember when I was a kid horse riding and somebody said, horses can read your thoughts. Horses know what you're thinking. So if you're scared, the horse will know. And that terrified me even more because I was terrified of the horse.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. Bees smell fear. Oh, no.
And then I got on the horse. I'm like, don't be scared, don't be scared, don't be scared.
Yeah.
I was even more scared.
You're reminding me of a book that I read years ago in a book club. And it was a book club with it was all women. There were like 10 or 12 of us. And we read this book years ago called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. And he was like a bodyguard, like he taught celebrities how to protect themselves and stuff like that. But The Gift of Fear, I remember we were all very active in the church at the time, this book club. And I remember walking into the book club, holding up the book, and I'm like, so is The Gift of Fear the book called, should we just call it Feeling the Spirit 101? Like getting the messages 101? Because it talked in that book a lot of things, and it's actually a phenomenal book. But one of the things that always sticks with me is people will trust the intuition of their dog or their animal before they'll trust their own. Like, I don't know about this guy because my dog doesn't like him. Well, what are you getting? Do you trust your instinct, or are you just relying on your dogs?
On the dog, yeah.
You know, like, so the animals, yeah, they can read the energy, but so can we.
Yeah, exactly. They can read there, but so can we.
Mm-hmm.
So have we missed a couple of the Chris, you've been very active today. Thanks, honey one. I'm just going through the comments though. Disclose UFOs.
Yeah, we're getting some good questions today, which I like.
Thank you for addressing the clickbait topic. Who's that? Faze Kelly. Yeah, addressing the clickbait topic with the people looking scared. Hilarious. But the disclosure, the UFO disclosure, people call the revealed disclosure. They think about it being about the disclosure of aliens, and boy, is it creating a lot of talk. As Congress comes out and starts talking about the UFO topic, and I think the main topic is, will the aliens harm us? Are they evil? Like, that's the fear that comes up the most as the truth about disclosing the reality of our galactic brothers and sisters. So I think that's that is so programming, because we've been programmed for years that any form of alien life is evil. Like, look at the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of movies made about alien life,
Yeah.
thousands probably,
Isn't
being
it like
evil and
Project
coming to
Moonbeam or something like that? Like, they say that it's
yeah.
all a construct to create more fear in us, and I don't know. Yeah.
Chris says here, Karen always makes me think of who I am. Good on you, darling one. Aliens already farm us. Wonder if cows say that about humans. It just says aliens already farm us. Wonder if cows say that about humans. What's Heidi saying here? No fear, society's conditioning. Yeah, absolutely, Heidi. Yeah, it's all about conditioning. So the topic of UFO UAP disclosure is revealing that, like, how are you navigating? How are you bumping up against it? I know my audience is into it because we're on the UFO Paranormal Network, radio network, right? So if you're listening to the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, you're probably into these topics and you're not scared about it. But there are a lot of mainstream people out there that are not listening to the UFO Paranormal Radio Network that are hearing about the realization that governments have been covering up alien tech and bodies have been found and the aliens are really here and blah blah blah, and then that it's revealing that programming, like you said, Mish, what did you say here? Society's conditioning. It's revealing that. It's the whole topic we're talking about. It's like, what is your fear revealing? I'm scared they're going to, like, in many movies, they've looked at, there's that movie called Disclosure Day coming out that everyone's talking about, the new Spielberg movie. Have you not seen it? It's coming out. It's called Disclosure Day. It's coming out in June this year. Everyone in the UFO community is talking about it. But there are movies that depict the reality of alien life interacting with human life. And then everyone goes crazy and starts looting shops and running through the streets screaming. There's this idea that if that reality were to become the truth, then religion would die and everyone's heads would explode or something like that. What do you think, Kristen? Do you think that when humanity at large, I mean, there's a large population of humanity that understands the truth of it, but probably the majority do not, when they understand that we are interacting with life throughout the cosmos? How do you think most religious people, because I know a lot of religions have said that, aliens are demonic, or people that were conditioned by Hollywood to fear them. How do you think the greater populace would navigate this, would respond?
Gosh, I don't know. I think about some of these things sometimes, like, is AI going to take over and it's going to be like Terminator, or is the aliens going to take over and they're going to all eat us like the old Twilight Zone episode. They show up with a book called To Serve Man, and they think it's to help mankind, but really it's a cookbook. Like, I do think about these things. A zombie apocalypse, like all these things that they keep showing us are going to happen, and I don't know if it's just the world I'm not creating because I don't want to live in it, or I just don't see it getting like that. I mean, the shutdown was hard enough on all of us in a lot of ways, and it could have been worse, but it still was subtle in its own. So I don't know that we can really know.
until it happens.
Until it happens. And that's why, like right now, I should be, Chris is, in the comments, is asking a lot of things about like being non-judgmental. So,
Right.
I get to practice that now, like being non-judgmental, putting my hand out to somebody when they're struggling in the fear of it, and things are being revealed, and then, checking myself, as the little things come along until the big things come along. Um, but my so I'm just preparing myself for whatever may come, knowing that, in the grand scheme of things, I chose to come to this planet at this time for some reason. So there's that. But then I also sometimes look at the memes that come up and go, oh, when all your conspiracy theorist friends are like going, told you so. Like,
Mhm.
every once in a while I'll tell my kids something. I'm like, hey, I just want to say this out loud. And if it comes true, then you'll go, okay, mom wasn't totally crazy.
Wasn't totally crazy. I know I had a friend that died about a decade ago, and he had 7 kids, and pretty much most of them thought he was crazy because he was really into sort of some way out spiritual concepts. Like he used to say, the sun isn't hot. There are people living on the sun, and it's another planet, and people are living on it. And he used to say a lot of stuff that he heard from different teachers, and they're just like Dad's totally lost it. And they used to judge him so much as being completely crazy, but they loved him to death. But after he died, a few of his kids had total spiritual awakenings, and Dad wasn't so crazy after all. It was really interesting to watch that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to
That
watch
really
that.
is. I'm reminded of my friend, Debbie Straley, who you had on the show, and her dad worked for NASA. And then Debbie, for context, she had a near-death experience while she was actually being born. And she went up and was given a choice, and she was born anyway. So she was born being able to see the light and the dark, communicating with angels her entire life. And she would get messages, and she would start talking to her dad about things that she knew were going on in the government with aliens
Right.
or with
Yeah.
angels. And her dad would get really scared, and he would close all the blinds. He'd be like, how do you know that? I haven't even told your mother that. Nobody knows that. I've never talked about that. Where are you getting this information? You know? So
So
it's
she was
very,
getting the information from her connection to the other side, from her
yeah,
connection to her spirit
yeah.
guides. Oh,
Mhm.
I thought you said she was talking to her dad in spirit. So he was still alive at the time.
He
Is he
was
still
still
alive
alive.
now? At the time,
No, he passed several years
he
ago.
passed away. But
Yeah.
as for the revealing what lives inside us, we're going to get to your questions. Thanks, Chris, for all your comments today.
Yeah.
That's what the galactics say to me about all this stuff. It's not as sexy talking about looking at their subconscious programming and getting over it as it is talking about crash sites and UFO disclosure and revealing technology that's far beyond, and the speed of light, anti-magnetic gravitic technology. Talking about navigating your innermost programming is not as sexy as talking about that other stuff. And the majority of the world wants to talk about that other stuff. But they say to me, someone's having me on his podcast soon who wants to only talk about UFO alien stuff. And but they say to me, the most important thing that you can do as humans to meet your galactic brothers and sisters, higher consciousness, is to stop this whole judgment thing. Like, get out of your fear. Like, learn what's real and what's not inside you, and what fear is just programming or what's really not. I mean, because that's how they operate. And to develop your psychic ability, your connection to your higher guidance, your connection to your spirit guides, and have that emotional, mental, conscious intelligence rather than just running on ego and fear and programming. I mean, that they say to me that that's the most important thing that we can do as humans to prepare humanity to meet their cosmic neighbors, because we're so far behind in our consciousness evolution than the rest of the cosmos. Well, the cosmos that's interacting with us anyway, that we're in this school right now to evolve that part of ourselves. And so this great reveal that's happening of uncovering the corruption and stuff like that is helping us uncover our own fears. And whether we're aware of that or not, because a lot of people are just out there on the internet just tearing down people that have been revered as spiritual teachers and gurus and stuff like that. They're just tearing them down because they were mentioned in some stupid file. And yeah, that it's just humans just love to tear down people. They just love to judge, don't they? Is it clickbait? Do they get more likes if they say things about people that are in the public eye? You know, with Deepak, I think to myself, he probably knew about, like, people are saying, you know, he was interacting with Epstein after Epstein was convicted. So therefore, by association, he must be like Epstein. But I'm thinking Deepak was probably thinking, maybe if I teach Epstein a few more spiritual principles, it'll calm down his controlling ego, and, you know, it might help him, rather than, you know, he might have been involved in him to try and help him rather than to practice what he practiced. But
how do
people
we
don't
really
want,
know, though?
people don't want to.
How would
Well,
we really know? I
let's
mean,
interview Deepak. Like, get Deepak on the show. Now, what are you saying here, Chris? You've got what's going on here? Would you treat judgment analysis as objects in awareness and not authorities? Do people fear, if I don't judge or choose, I will become apathetic or irresponsible? Is there a peer pressure? I don't really understand that. What do you mean by is there a peer
I
pressure?
think I do. You know, like if I don't come out and say
That's
I'm
funny one.
for or against something, you
Uh-huh.
know, there's the peer pressure of, well, do you even care about anything then? How can you not care? You know, Deepak
Yeah.
Chopra was named in these files. How can you not care?
How
Well,
can you not think that he's horrible like everybody else thinks that
right,
he's
right. And there
horrible?
is
How can you
peer
not tear him
pressure.
down? Mm-hmm.
But, you know, are you a sovereign being? Do you have your own mindset? And, you know, if you don't come out in judgment of everybody, yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky question. It's not tricky for me, but it's tricky to teach that. I'll say
Well,
that.
if
You know,
you've lived life like you and I, where you're used to people tearing you down for what you believe, then you cease to be upset about
yeah,
having a different opinion to
yeah,
the mainstream opinion.
yeah,
You know, I used to love going out to dinner with my school friends. We had these monthly, or every few months, we'd have girls' nights out, but they decided that I was just too weird and they didn't want me around anymore. And that kind of stings and hurts.
it does.
But then, you know, they're sort of old now and they're dying. So, like, one of them who didn't used to pick up my calls, who was one of my best friends years ago, you know, after she died, she said such lovely things. Like, it was like having that interaction with her after she left her body. I was just like, I'm so sorry. I was just following the crowd, she said. I
Yeah,
was peer pressure, like other people were judging you. And so I didn't really feel like they did, but I just agreed with them because I wanted to fit into that little clique, that little group. But if you're used to being ousted and judged, then it's you know, like, who cares if you stand up for what you believe in?
yeah,
Who cares what people say about you? So I believe in love. I believe in
yeah,
non-judgment. I believe in unity. And I believe that any horrific person, you can see the soul in them rather than the actions of their ego
yeah.
mind.
And I want to go back to the peer pressure too. On top of that, I've had similar experiences with friends like you, but they have come back to me before they've left the body. And when they have a question about like something spiritual or you know, I think my father is trying to connect with me from the other side. I keep
Yeah,
seeing this, that. So they come to me independently without anybody else knowing,
right.
you know,
Exactly.
because they don't want everybody. And it totally reminds me of, speaking of movies, Practical Magic, and how at the end, have you seen Practical Magic, Karen?
I have. I don't remember it, but I've seen it.
Okay,
Yeah.
at the very end, you know, they need a whole bunch of women to encircle, you know, the one sister that's gotten possessed by the bad guy, and all these women that have been hounding them from the town, making fun of them since they were small children. You know, they just call the phone tree and the ladies all show up and one of them's like, "Well, I've always," you know, who's been one of their biggest, you know, protesters, comes and says, "I've just always want to see the inside of your house," you know. And she shows up there with her broom and is part of the little, you know, Insta
That's cute.
coven. It's
That's cute.
so, you know, social pressure, definitely, Chris. I agree. I agree. But yeah, he's got another excellent question.
Yeah, can you control pain by elevating consciousness? Absolutely. And I do it all the time. It's something I talk about on the show often. And what I've noticed in my own control of pain is the more I judge, Like, so you fall over and hurt yourself. So recently, what did I do? It was a while ago. I fell down the steps a couple of years ago. The steps outside were very moldy. And I kept thinking, I wish the real estate agent would clean the steps because somebody could fall over and hurt themselves. And I had this thought over and over again. So I rang the real estate agent. Oh, can you clean the? Yeah, we'll clean the steps. And I kept thinking, someone's going to fall over and hurt. Well, that someone was me. Like, I walked down the steps being very careful because I thought these are dangerous steps because they've got mold all over them. And then I fell ass over heel. And I was so angry at myself because I kept thinking someone's going to fall over and hurt themselves. And I thought, God damn it, I had totally created this by focusing on it because that someone was me. And as I held on to that judgment of myself, the pain was horrific. And in the past, when I've done something like hurt myself, when I start to focus and breathe and rather than judge what's happening, judge myself for being stupid or judge what's happening as being bad, and I just accept what it is and find a positive thought about it, like, this has slowed me down, this has got me out of my busyness thinking, found something to appreciate in the action, the pain instantly melts away, like instantly, absolutely disappears. I remember doing this years ago. When I was on the beach, I was stung by a blue bottle. And if you've ever been stung by a blue bottle, it hurts. They sting.
I did when I was down there.
Oh my God, it hurts. So anyway, I sat on the beach and I started thinking, now what is the reason that I'm being stung by a blue bottle? Maybe there's something in the electricity of the blue body stimulating a part of my cells and it's putting more life into my cells. Like, I was just changing the narrative in my head and being appreciative for the sting instead of just going, ow, 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 this hurts, this hurts, this hurts. And it was so funny. The pain stopped, but I was so in my story of this is really helping me, like it's activating me in some way, that when the pain stopped, I wanted the pain to come back because I so believed my story.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, our consciousness can completely control pain. It's the story we tell ourselves about it. I think about this in childbirth. I didn't do very well in childbirth. I was in the give me the drug screaming and abusing everybody. But, we look at childbirth as painful instead of beautiful. It's like, if we change the story about it, does that contraction of the muscles of our body interpret into pain, or can it be perceived as something beautiful and you feel that, but you're not in pain with it? Yeah, it's something we all need to practice.
Yeah, I do remember in
I was
childbirth.
27, 28 when I gave birth, so I wasn't so conscious of it. I did have the acupuncturist in the room with me and, the crystals, but I wasn't so aware of how my thoughts create my reality at that point.
Well, and I'm being reminded too, like, can we control emotional pain by elevating consciousness?
Absolutely.
And I believe we can. And I think that it's a delicate balance to not tamp it down and not address it and not look at it or experience it, but still elevate the consciousness so it doesn't knock me on my butt, I mean, I grieve my husband, the loss of my husband, but it doesn't destroy my life, right? Because, that's an emotional pain that, it kind of stings a little, or I get a little pang, even though, I know so much, right?
Well, if you use inquiry instead of, I don't know if you've ever tried to overcome emotional pain by trying to think positive, it actually doesn't work. It really doesn't work.
But asking questions works for me.
But using inquiry, like, why am I feeling so bad? Like, why am I feeling so bad today? Why am I missing him more today than I do other days?
Yep.
Why is this really hurting me today? What am I believing about myself? Yep. What am I believing to be true, that the death of my husband is really hurting me today? And so if you use inquiry instead of, oh, I'm just going to eat an ice cream or put on good music or, have a joke with a friend so I don't feel this pain, like try to cover it up with positive emotion. Inquiry is the thing that really melts pain rather than trying to cover it up. You could probably cover up pain by eating something delicious or doing something fun for a minute, and then it's going to come back. It's just going to, because it's guidance. It's like guidance knocking, saying, pay attention to me. There's something you need to learn here about yourself. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me.
Yeah. And I want to say that I have had some of my most profound, spiritually transformative experiences when I've just been sitting in the middle of something that may not even be major, but I start asking those questions. Just like I was saying, he puts up here, Chris asked, "Does it stop anger too, Karen?" Well, yeah, it stopped my
Yeah,
anger at my kid before I went to that therapy session for me to ask the questions and to elevate my consciousness to what am I learning here? What am I being taught? What's the reason I'm so angry? And, you know, so I think the inquiry, and I'm also reminded of how you and I were talking. Was it on the show or after the show? And it was about Michael Tamura, and you're like, "Why do I get so many answers?" And he says, "Because you're curious, because you look at something and you really genuinely want to know." So there you are.
exactly.
You're inquiring. Why are they like that? That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Curiosity is such a blessing. It really is. What is
Yeah.
Mish saying here? When I was handed my son, I said, "Oh my gosh, he has a big nose." A few days later, friend gave me a paper on what we hear when we are born. So I thought that about my daughter too. We used to call her Mini Merrick. She came out looking just like her father, even though she had this tiny little button nose. I knew it was his nose. And as an adult, it's still his nose. It's a much smaller version. He had a big crooked nose. I think it's crooked because it was broken, but he had this big nose. And she has his nose, but a much smaller version. And I remember when she was born, we just looked at her and we went, "Oh, Minnie Merrick." It's like she just looked so much like him, even though she was this tiny baby. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, what she's saying here, I have felt bad since he's 27 this year. You still feel bad about saying he has a big nose. Does he have a big nose as a 27-year-old, Mish? Oh lol. Yeah.
Hey, she's referring to mom guilt, and parental guilt is a real thing.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I get it.
Absolutely.
Let it go, Mish. Let it go, honey.
Let it go, let it go. God, I'm hot. It's hot in here in Sydney. It's muggy. It's actually a nice cool day, but I think it's the lights. How can that control of consciousness transfer to other areas? Oh, darling one, you are full of the best questions today, but we've only got 3 minutes to go. Come back and come on the show, Chris, and ask your questions. I love that he's asking those questions. Chris is somebody I've known for a long time. I met him in Sydney, Australia. He moved to Canada many, many years ago. I think it was in 2000. So 25 years ago, you've been in Canada for 25 years. Was it in 2000 or 2002? But anyway, back in the early 2000s. But yeah, you've got some great questions. I can tell you stories about Chris. Take care, everyone, Mish says. Yeah, lol, you're going. Yeah, we've explored navigating the reveal today. So going over it. Anytime you bump up against any sort of judgment when things are revealed, both good and bad. So something really beautiful can be revealed, and we still bump up against it with negative judgment. As I said about the telepathy tapes when they came out, all these people going, it's rubbish, it's bullshit, people are lying. They hit it with judgment and fear when something as beautiful as the reveal of non-verbal kids on the spectrum all telepathically talking to themselves. Like, I just see that as so spectacularly beautiful, but not everybody did. So yeah, what's inside us, what fears live inside us as the reveal continues to happen, because it's going to continue to happen. Everyone's got something to say about what's in the Epstein files, or what Trump does or says or isn't doing, or what other politicians are doing, and what governments are doing, what ETs are saying. Yeah, it continues. Yeah, and you've been watching Elevate. I haven't done a station ID today. Elevate Consciousness with Karen Swain and Kristen Mismash on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is syndicated radio out of New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, coming out of 107.7 and 105.3 FM. We've been talking about navigating the great reveal, or the shift, or the days of disclosure, the era of disclosure, and how as we respond or react to something, it reveals who we are. It's actually about revealing what lives inside us, not what's happening. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it's all about. Only one. Yeah.
Last word from Chris.
Oh, thanks, darling. He says, for people listening on radio, I should read it out. I always cherished my relationships with Karen. I still admire her after 25 years. Thank you, darling.
That's awesome.
I have to say, I'll tell you a little story about Chris. So I've always admired psychic ability in people. And Chris comes from an Indian background. And like Deepak, actually, he reminded me of Deepak. Deepak came from this traditional Indian background, but he revered the Western science. And Deepak moved to the United States and became head of the Boston of endocrinology in the Boston Hospital. He really moved up that scientific ladder. And when he became top of his game, he realized that all the beautiful spiritual things that his grandmother used to say to him as a child was something he needed to pay attention to when he became like this big scientist. And Chris was the same. He came from this beautiful Indian background, moved into the corporate world. And when he met me, who was teaching people all things spiritual, I witnessed his incredible psychic ability, which he paid no attention to. And I used to say to him, he would meet some of my friends and I'd say, tell me what you got about this person. And he would explain things about them like he knew them for 20 years. He just had that ability to intuit. And when he moved away from Australia, I'm telling stories about you, we were on the phone one day. I don't know if he was in India or Canada at the time, and he was remote viewing me. He was like, I can see you sitting in the couch. I can see you wearing this outfit. You're sitting on this side of the couch. I know, right? And I'm like, Chris, your psychic ability is amazing. So, yeah, he's got that insight talking about you going, oh, we got to go. Thank you. Thanks, Kristen, for having another fab chat with me.
Chris says namaste.
Namaste. Chris was also one of the first people to do this to me, like put his hands up in the namaste, which I don't know if you've watched the shows. I do that to pretty much every guest.
You do.
It's not like I put my hands in prayer. It's like saying the spirit, the God in you is the same as the God in me, which is what namaste. I recognize the divine in you. It's the same as the divine in me. Namaste. So I remember Chris was one of the first people to do that because it is an Indian tradition to do that. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, many years ago, big love to all of you. May you recognize the God in others that is the same God in yourself, the same divine essence, the spark of light. Instead of judging them, use that judgment to navigate your own fears. Love you, Kristen.
Love you,
Chris,
too.
Heidi, Mish, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time. Bye for